everybody, welcome to the Paradigm Shift. I'm your coach. I'm Kayla New York. I'm going to be your coach today. I've done a lot of research. I've had a lot of questions. Everybody wants to know what Mercury in a retrograde is, and this is my thoughts from the research that I've done, from the spiritual team that I have, from my own life experiences with Mercury in retrograde. And nothing is absolute. It's not the same for everybody. Some people may have it different. That's the beauty of being. That's the beauty of the universe. Everybody doesn't have the same outcome to things, but at the same time, it's somewhat similar. It's somewhat similar if you look at it. And if you're conscious with it, you'll be able to move and maneuver things through it. This is not an end all be all. It's controlling my life. I have no control over my life. That's not what I'm talking about. What I want you to understand, the reason why I want people to know about Mercury in retrograde, especially my friends and family, is because you'll be able to maneuver around what's happening, or you'll at least have an idea of what might happen. Remember, being prepared is always better than being a quick thinker to fix things. So if you're already prepared for something, you already know what to kind of expect and be mindful of what to look out for, and you can maneuver better. But if you're like, no, this isn't happening, all this stuff, and but you can do too, but it's still going to happen to you, and then you're going to go through life going, I don't understand. I don't understand why my life is like this. I don't understand why at this time in my life, or at this time of whatever, this is what's going on. Usually has something to do with the universe. It's not just us here sitting. There's so much that we're not being told. There's so much that we have to really literally get up and find the information ourselves. And this is one of them. So anyway, let's get into Mercury in retrograde. So I did some research so I can tell you guys and pinpoint exactly what Mercury in retrograde is, what retrograde is. Retrograde, from the definition of retrograde, is a planet is in retrograde when it appears to move backwards in the sky. It's not actually moving backwards, but if you've ever been in a car, and this used to happen to me when I was a kid a lot. Not so much as an adult, probably because I'm not really paying attention, but you'll be sitting in a car and that car moves forward, and it just for a split second, it appears that you're moving backwards. It's one of the weirdest feelings ever. That's retrograde. If for like the raw definition of it, it's like when something feels or appears that it's moving backwards, but it's really not. That's retrograde. Anyway, as a person who studies astrology and a person who just studies the universe, it's not even just astrology, I study everything. As a person who studies the universe, and the components therein, I feel that Mercury in retrograde, because that's the first one that I'm studying. There's a whole bunch of them, but the one I'm focusing on this month, or for now, is Mercury, because it's so vast, and when it goes retrograde, there's so many different things that may happen and does happen to certain people that it's one of the. I'm happy it's the first one. It changes from year. All the retrogrades, Mercury in retrograde changes from year to year. So the Mercury in retrograde time period in 2019 was different than the retrograde period in 2020 right now. So I even looked at it. It's the dates are different. It's still the similar time frame, but the dates don't. It's not like how Christmas is always on December 25th, or it's not like that. It shifts as from year to year. Now, 2020 retrograde, Mercury in retrograde, is from February 17th to March 10th. So between February 17th and March 10th, that's the retrograde. I'll get into other aspects, but right now I'm just telling you the dates. So now the upcoming one, which we are now, if you're looking at this video now, today is June 15th. Today's June 15th. So Mercury is due to go retrograde on June 18th, which is 3 days from now. That's when it goes fully retrograde. So it goes fully retrograde from June 18th until July 12th. It sounds like a big gap because it is. So, and then the last one for the year would be October 14th to November 3rd. Now, Mercury goes retrograde in different signs. That's what a lot of people I don't think, because when I was first told about retrograde, I was told the blanket thing about retrograde. Everything else that I learned, I either researched it or I pretty much personally experienced it, and I did my own spiritual guidance checking with my team. Like, okay, this doesn't make sense. So what I learned is there are different retrogrades. So say for instance, right, follow me for a second. February 17th to March 10th, this was a retrograde that just happened. For me, it wasn't as an intense of a retrograde for me. It was, you still felt it, you still had to be mindful of certain things, but it wasn't like, holy crap. Now, last year's retrograde, which was the retrograde that happened sometime in October and November, was in Scorpio and Libra. Now, the one that just happened in February, this year, February 17th and March 10th, was in Pisces and Aries. So for me, it's different. It varies because of the signs and the intensities of the signs. Because just Scorpio season, those that really follow energy, it's not even following astrology, it's following energy. Scorpio energy is vastly different than Gemini or Pisces, definitely Pisces. It's a completely different energy. It's more intense. And the thing with Scorpio is that it's about transformation. It's about getting in there, burning down the things that don't work or have you feeling some kind of way and rebuilding it into something better. But everybody who knows about building, if there's something already there, you're going to have to destroy it. You're going to have to break it down. You're going to have to tear it apart to gain something better and for something to change. You got to destroy it. So that retrograde I'm not looking forward to, because last year that retrograde put me on my ass, because it was just like, it was such an intense retrograde that it was crazy. So I feel that within the months that the retrograde happens, because it happens 3 times a year, it happens 3 times a year, and it lasts for approximately, it lasts for approximately 22 days. And it happens every 4 months, or roughly 3 to 4 times a year, depending on what's going on with the year. Like I said, every year is different. It's not the same as it always is. So I feel that once we go retrograde, you have to look at all of it. You can't just look at, oh, it's going retrograde, so this, and this is going to happen. That's not always the case, because when you go into the sign of Pisces, Pisces for me have more of a, we're all tolerant of everybody. We let your image and how you look and how other people perceive you, you're a little bit more guarded with that, and a little bit more, maybe those are where the hiccups would be. Or when it goes into Aries, it'll probably be more of, if you have an issue with authority and taking things on direct, where you might have your issue. Now, where we're going, where we've already started, and is Gemini. We're in right now. We're in retrograde for Gemini, and you'll be like, "Oh, Keisha, what are you talking about? You said that retrograde starts on June 18th. So, what do you mean we're in retrograde right now?" It's a very good question. Retrograde usually starts or makes an appearance 2 weeks before, and it starts to go in the right direction 2 weeks before it's finished. So it starts 2 weeks before, and then it kind of ends 2 weeks before it's really supposed to like completely end. It's kind of like a train. If you like a big cargo train, you're going full steam, right? It's kind of like before that train passes you, you hear it, everybody gets ready for it, alarms start going off for you not to be on the tracks. There's so many things that go into play before that train gets there. Get it? The air is shifting towards, because if you ever, I'm from New York, so in the subway, you know when a train is coming because the wind starts blowing. All that compacted wind starts blowing towards you. That's what happens 2 weeks before. 2 weeks before it actually hits, you'll start seeing yourself get not understanding what the hell is happening, but something feels off. Things aren't quite working the way it's supposed to work. So you're like, what the hell? That's when you start supposed to be doing batten down the hatches, getting everything ready. I'm like, okay, Mercury is about to go retrograde. So it's about to go retrograde 2 weeks before. So that's when you start tying up loose ends and you start just getting yourself prepared for like a midterm. Because I feel like retrograde is really just your midterm, because you learn different techniques throughout the year before you get that ultimate test. That's the way I look at retrogrades for Mercury. It's like it's the test to see if you've learned what you needed to learn, or you're going to repeat what you need to learn. But if you just go day retrograde after retrograde going, I don't know what the hell is going on. Oh my God, this is crazy. And especially if you're my friend, because I'm like, hey, this is what's happening, and it wants you to look at the situation and fix it. So, or at least be conscious of it so that you can maneuver around it and use the blueprint to build whatever you want to build. This now retrograde that we're about to step into completely started 2 weeks before. I didn't do the calculation, so forgive me for that. But it started 2 weeks before now, and we only have 3 more days left. So 21, 20, it started about 18, 19 days ago. So that's when it started. And you started to see little hiccups here and there. Things like I had a meeting that I scheduled, and me knowing that retrograde was starting, I have this checklist that I go over all my meetings for that day to make sure that everything's where it's supposed to be. I make sure that what needs to be done is done. I double check stuff. I write stuff down. I give myself extra time to get stuff done. So you could be, I kind of skipped over something. I know you're going to be asking, well, what happens in retrograde that's such a big deal? Mercury in the zodiac or your natal chart, it rules the way we think. It rules the way we speak and the way we write. It rules like our thought process, how we maneuver through life, and how we tell the truth or sidestep the truth, or take responsibility or sidestep responsibility. It's that energy. So anytime, like the article that I researched, it said anytime you pick up a pen or state your case, or you travel somewhere, you're literally using that Mercury energy. Um, just to quote where I got it from, I got that from, I got this whole lesson from astrology.com. Shout out to astrology.com. If you want to get the information, it's astrology.com/retrograde/Mercury retrograde. So I just wanted to give props where prop is due. So, because a lot of the information I get is from research. And I know someone had to put that research out there for me to get it. So I try to make sure I give them a shout out and put their link in the comments below. So, plus, if we all work together, we can get this unified. Anyway, so back to Mercury retrograde. So anything that has to do with communication goes wonky. And when I say wonky, it goes a little crazy. Now, Mercury rules Virgo, the sign Virgo, and the sign Gemini. Those are the two signs that Mercury rules. It's kind of like the parent of those signs. Now, the way I feel, this is the way I feel about Mercury in retrograde in Gemini. Mercury in retrograde in Gemini. So what is Gemini? Gemini, they're supposed to be the communicators of the zodiac. They pretty much rule communication. They're very adaptable. They're a very adaptable sign. They're not they are an air sign. They're an air sign, so they're very, a lot of people will call it flighty. There are a lot of flighty. It's very light. It's very, those who know Geminis is kind of like they joke around a lot. They're very into them and what they need and what they want and stuff. But they also are very generous because they overpromise and then they overindulge, and there's every sign has good and bad, not just Gemini. But I'm saying this about Gemini because that's where we are in right now. Right now, we're in the shadow of retrograde, and we're in the shadow of retrograde in Gemini. So this, for me, I believe is a good retrograde. When I say good retrograde, I don't mean like, oh my God, I'm just gonna have fun. That's not what I mean. It's not as intense because it's an air sign, so it's somewhat light. It's not too deep, and it's like how it would be with Scorpio. It's more of communication needs to be worked on a little bit more. But since it's in Mercury, who rules it, it's not going to, they call it exalted, meaning that it does well with that sign. That planet does well with that sign. So it's not going to destroy or hurt it because it's its own kid. I don't know if that, I'm trying to like layman's term this as much as possible. It's not going to hurt it. So it's like it's not going to be as deep. It's going to be deep, but it's not going to be as deep. Now, once the clock strikes and we go into Cancer in retrograde, that's where, and that starts on the 22nd of June. June 22nd, and we're in Cancer longer than we are in Gemini. Because like I said, Everybody's probably like, I don't even really feel that retrograde is going on right now. That would make sense. That would make sense. And it is a lighter sign, especially I'm a Scorpio, so everything affects me deeply, no matter what it is. So for me, it's like the depth is normal, but to watch people who normally don't go deep have things pop up that's like, what the hell? Because retrograde is going over old territory. It's going over things that you thought you forgot about, going over things that you thought were dead and buried. It comes back up. And when you're in Gemini, it's probably light things like here and there that, it's annoying. It's more annoying than anything else because you're like, yo, what the hell? But once we hit Cancer, it's going to go deeper because Cancer is ruled by the moon, not Mercury. And since it's ruled by the moon rules your emotions. So it's like that's where a lot of the holy crap, what the hell is going to hit everyone because it's going to be dealing with emotions that you don't, it's not going to be as intense as the one that's going to happen in October. It's not because although Cancer and Scorpio are both water signs, Cancer is a cardinal sign. Scorpio is fixed. Once we had, that's what we're going to focus on. That's what's going to be. That's Scorpio. Cancer is more along the lines of I want to teach, I want to lead, I want to show you what needs to be done. But it doesn't impact and it's not as absolute as Scorpio. Scorpio is so absolute with a lot of the stuff. If we're going to destroy it for it to get better, we're going to destroy it to get better. Cancer and like even Aries is a cardinal sign. They're more along the lines of I just want I want to win. And I'll do whatever strategic move I need to make it win, but the Scorpio is a fire sign. So they have no problem burning shit to make it work. They're like, oh, well, I guess I'm just going to have to burn that relationship. They have and they're very calculated and very with what they say, and how they execute. Cancer, on the other hand, it's more of a fluid. This is the only way I can explain it. It's more of a fluid movement to how they do things. So in turn, it's going to be like, the hell, and it's going to go like this. And you're going to feel like something's weird, but it's just Cancer and retrograde, retrograde, Mercury and retrograde in the Cancer sign. So that's what I want people to be prepared for. It's like, even though you feel that it's light right now, you gotta be careful because it's gonna sneak up on you. Now, what probably should have said this in the beginning, but most people are like, well, like I said before, what the hell is gonna happen? Plans are gonna fall through. If you notice, it's gonna happen now. It's already happening. Plans are gonna, but it's more airy, and it's like, oh, okay, whatever. And you're disappointed, but you're like, all right, whatever. It's not gonna be like that next month. It's not next month. Next sign. It's not. It's gonna be more along the lines of, yo, this happens a lot, and then you're gonna start thinking about it. That's the difference. Like in the sign that it's now, it's like, oh, oh, that's the stuff that sucks. But then the next one, when it goes into Cancer, it's going to be more along the lines of, yo, he canceled the last time, or yo, why does this keep happening? That's when you go deeper. Geminis don't think that deep. They don't, not on purpose. If a Gemini is thinking deep, it's because they're required to and they have to, or they're forced to. It's either by choice because they have other signs in their natal chart, and or especially their rising, or someone else like a Scorpio is like, yo, you need to think. and then they're forced to think deeper. That's like Gemini. So, like I said, with where we are right now until June 24th, I'm sorry, June 21st until June 21st, we're in Gemini, Mercury in Gemini. Now, from June 22nd to July 12th, I believe I told you guys, have my notes right here, to July 12th. It's going to be in Cancer. Like I said, Cancer is ruled by the moon. So when you're dealing with the moon, everything is going to be emotional and in depth, and it's going to your soul and your stomach and your gut and all this other stuff, because it's all right here. So like ideas, I wrote some ideas that I got from astrology.com. Some ideas, what things to avoid is avoid not paying attention. I don't know how to explain that, but you have to pay attention. In life, period, you have to pay attention. But during retrograde, you really have to pay attention, because if you don't pay attention, there's going to be hiccups. And there's certain things that you can't predict is going to happen. You can't. So, but you can plan for it. Say, for instance, if we weren't on quarantine, getting up earlier to go to work, getting yourself prepared the night before, because it's kind of like Murphy's Law. Whatever could go wrong will go wrong, and that's what it is. I had one of the astrologers that I follow really hard body on YouTube. I wanted to see what they had to say on retrograde. And one video, he was like, yeah, there's no such thing as retrograde, and it's not that big deal. 4 years later, because I was looking at the timestamp, 4 years later, he posted a video on surviving retrograde. So obviously, retrograde got him. And it was probably because I saw when he videotaped it, one retrograde was in, I think, more in like this one or Pisces. I don't remember which one it was. And then the next retrograde I believe he was in was the one in Scorpio. So it depends. You can't, not every retrograde is created equal. It is not. So you have to pick and choose what you say while you're going through retrograde. Because you can be like, retrograde is bullshit. I can deal with it. And you're in Pisces retrograde. And then Scorpio retrograde hits you and you don't know what the hell is happening to your life at that moment. Don't try your best not to sign any contracts. Try your best not to really make too many plans during that time. Try to get everything. If you're gonna buy stuff, like big ticket items like TVs or electronics and stuff like that, save that until after it goes direct, or at least wait. If you can't wait, at least wait 2 weeks before it ends to start. Don't do it right smack in it, because 9 times out of 10 you're gonna have to return stuff. I tested it and I double checked what I was buying, and I still had to return it. So, and it still didn't work properly, and it actually did break. It happened to me a couple of times. So I know people are like, I bought stuff and it didn't break. That's great. It's not a competition. That's great too. But I wouldn't start anything during retrograde. Granted, if you're going to start a job, you're going to have to start a job regardless. Don't sit there and be like, I'll start after retrograde, because they're going to look at you like you're crazy. But if you can help it, avoid it. If you can help signing final contracts, avoid it. If you can prevent it, avoid it. I'm not saying to live your life around it, but if you can avoid it, just avoid it. Just for happen's sake, don't do it. Because, and then there's going to be delays. we're in quarantine in New York still. We're still on pause. So there's not really any traveling. There's really nothing open right now. But like a couple of years from now, that's what would be messed up. Transportation. Your train would be delayed. Somehow you missed your bus on, and every other time you're on time for the bus. Stuff like that. And your communication during Mercury, since Mercury rules communication, it's going, like I said, it appears that it's going backwards. So a lot of especially somebody from like me, who is always coaching, who's always talking, who's always giving advice, I find that when I talk, I have to gauge it differently. I have to be softer, or I have to tweak it than I normally can just give it to you straight, because it's like something happens to communication. It's like this kind of like if you're on a walkie-talkie and the walkie-talkie is clear, but then once it starts to enter a certain field, it starts to be jumbled. And you thought you heard this, but that's not what you really heard. So it's for those who are communicators, take your time. Take your time. Don't get frustrated if people don't, and I'm talking to myself as much as I'm talking to you. Don't get frustrated if people aren't getting what you're saying, and as a Scorpio, it's hard for me because I'm an either all or nothing type of person. I'm like, either we're going to do this or we're not going to do this. I'm not going to sit here and try but during retrograde, I have to have the mindfulness that, hey, they might not understand what you're saying, so take your time and work it through and listen to what the person's saying before you jump, because it communication gets weird. It gets weird and different. So I think that's everything. Like I said in the beginning, whether you believe in it or not really doesn't makes no difference to the universe. It's like it is what it is. It's like whether heed the warning or not. It's my job just to put out the warning for everyone that boop, 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 boop. The train is coming into the station, and this is where the test really begins. The test begins with, have you learned what you needed to learn? Do you know where your holes are? Because 9 times out of 10, that's where the lessons are going to be during the retrograde season. So it's like, I know for me, I always have issues with my emotions. Like any kind of retrograde, it always deals with my emotions, how I deal with people, when I deal with people, letting go of what no longer serves me, but that's because I'm a Scorpio. We kill shit. Death is not, I'm not scared of death. I don't like suffering. That for me is, and that's what I usually deal with. As far as my retrograde, it's usually like, okay, I have to start evaluating the people in my life. I have a tendency to evaluate what I'm doing, the coaching that I'm doing, the lack of coaching or the lack of talking. That's why I'm on now. The lack of coaching, the lack of understanding what I'm supposed to be doing. That's what comes up for me in retrograde. So let me know how your retrograde goes. Let me know your thoughts of this video. It's like my first paradigm shift, I think, kind of, sort of, whatever. Let me know what you think. I hope to talk to you soon. It's your girl Kayla. Stay up, stay blessed, and be safe out there, especially during retrograde season. Deuces.